Duandon by George Sterling. 1812–1849 Duandon. Duandon, king of Aetria's farthest bound, And lord of isles the sea is loud around, Beheld the crimson fountains of the dawn Bear up the lark, a foam of song, till drawn By some new sorrow in the ocean's tone, Thither he fared, expectant and alone. Thither he fared, fresh from the sea of sleep, And all the balmy land was blossomed deep, Nor could one wander save on helpless flowers, Where summer made a garland of the hours, And bound it on the dew dipped brow of morn, Bent low above the meadow's blossom bourne. But past all peace of bowers rang the call And invocation of the billow's fall, And clean from kingdoms of the sapphire vast The winds of ocean smote his brow at last. Afar he saw the eddying petrel sweep O'er reefs where hoarser roared the thwarted deep, And soon before his eyes, exultant, fain, Heavy with azure gleamed the investing main, And quick with pulsings of a distant storm, Strong as that music floating Troy to form. Splendid the everlasting ocean shone, As God's blue robe upon a desert thrown. Landward he saw the sea born breakers fair, Young as a wind and ancient as the air. August he saw the unending ranks uproll, With joy and wonder mastering the soul, With marvel on the hearing and the sight, Green fires, and billows tremulous with light, With shaken soul of light and shuddering blaze Of leaping emerald and cold chrysoprase. The surge and suspiration of the sea, Great waters choral of eternity. The mighty dirge that will not cease for day, Nor all the stars' invincible array. The thunder that hath set, since time began, Its sorrow in the lonely heart of man. Long stood the king before that wide review, Divining, deep beyond its sound and hue, Unfathomable mystery and dream, Rapture and woe elusive but supreme. And as the pine against the sea wind sighs, So thrilled his breast with whispers and surmise, Till on a beach that only he might roam, The sea, from broadest tapestries of foam, From mighty looms immaculate and cold, A scarlet shell before his feet uprolled. Wet as with blood against the dawn it flamed, Deep whorled and irised, lustrous and unnamed, A jewel of the sea that burned and shone Like some king ruby ravished from a throne. And long Duandon wandered all amazed, And long upon the shell's wild beauty gazed, Till, half unwitting, swiftly to his ear He held it, fain as any child to hear That echo, like the murmuring of seas, Astray forever on a mournful breeze, And borne from some remote nocturnal bound, Whereat a voice, in sorceries of sound, To which the grace of vanished lyres had clung, Sang from the shell as never voice has sung. Far down where virgin silence reigns, In jasper evenings of the sea, I toss my pearls, I wait for thee. The sea hath lent me all its stains, It is but treasure house of me. The corals of the deep have caught A Titan shell whose fragile dome Is crimson o'er my ocean home, Mine opal chamber subtly wrought In semblance of the shaken foam. O come and thou shalt dream with me, By violet foam at twilight tossed, On strands of ocean islands lost, To prows that seek them wearily, O'er seas by questing sunsets crossed. All dreams that hope hath promised love, All beauty thou hast sought in vain, All joy held once and lost again, These and the mystery thereof I guard beneath the sundering main. So rang that crystal cry, as from afar, Clear as the voice of heaven's whitest star, And strong Duandon pondered with his gaze, set like twin stars above those azure ways. Keener his heart, a plummet, yearned to sound the gulf that held his soul amazed and bound, where, darker for the sky's unclouded dome, the waves took sudden coronals of foam, till half he deemed he saw, far out, the wide flung arms and bosom of the ocean sprite. Hour beyond hour, until the sun was fled, strode he on sands that none but he might tread. Hour beyond hour one sight his vision drank, a foam white arm that beckoned once, and sank. Then wave to wave in deeper anthems roared, and realm by realm the belted sunset soared, as though a city of the Titans burned in lands below the sea line, undiscerned, till desolation touched it, zone by zone, its splendor gone, like jewels turned to stone. And sad with evening sang the ocean choirs, domed by the stars' imperishable fires. But still Duandon lingered on the sands, and clasped the shell with indecisive hands. Ghostly it gleamed, nor music would outpour, save of the sea on some disastrous shore. And still he stood, and listened but to hark the surf, like dragons battling in the dark. Implacable they ravened, ere the moon, a towering glory on the eastern dune, a frozen splendor on the seething strand, in silver webs had snared the sea and land. Then, as on hostile waves her arrows leapt, Duandon turned him from the sea, and slept. Slept, but the morning found him yet again, a lonely searcher of the lonelier main. And night by night, and day by barren day, silent he stood before the waves' array, the victim of an unrelenting strife of joy with death, of love with love of life. Ever at dawn the voice from out the shell renewed within his heart the siren's spell. Ever the wild enchanting melody rang as the sun was wedded to the sea, and still the royal pageant of the world before his doom bewildered eyes unfurled, with dusky stain of sunset northward drawn, and cloudy headlands of the coasts of dawn. Beyond that realm of jade and jade-bound bays, he saw the sapphire fields of ocean blaze, heard the alliant waters chant their rune before the turquoise battlements of noon, where evening armies of the mist would roam, as twilight mixed its purple with the foam, where sunlight, checked in its torrential leap, would froth at dawn about some cloudland steep. Debarred was peace, though sleep, with tender hand, led him awhile in her allaying land. For soon the sea flowed in upon his dream, and far below he saw the singer gleam, her floating hair and pearly body's grace, with sunken moonlight pure upon her face. So still he yearned, on whom her spell was laid, and ever sunset, like a golden blade, cut day by day from life, and ever he heard like the voice of death the lordly sea, chanting, enthroned on choric reef and bars, its midnight song below the western stars. And all the stars seemed ministrant to doom, as high Orion trod his arc of gloom. Broke then a morning, when the weary sea lay hushed above its halls of mystery. Besieging fog hung mute on shore and vale, with pallid banners and with ashen mail, and ocean, grey as with oblivion, lay hidden from the visage of the sun. High noon drave not the phantom army forth, nor winds slow seeping from the muffled north, and weary with its vigil of the deep, Duandon's soul put out on seas of sleep. Dreamless he lay ere sunset, and the shell, unguarded, from assenting fingers fell. Came then, nor spilt that anodyne of rest, his only son, impatient with the quest, new fared from crimson victories of war, tall as the spears that lesser champions bore. To him the horizon was a smitten chord that rang in challenge to his youthful sword, and thrilled with all the murmurs of romance, the realms remote from his insatiate lands. Silent awhile he stood, and ere he spoke, routed at last, the sea mist's army broke, and as its ranks fled landward to their knell, the consummating sunset smote the shell. Duandon woke below the evening star, And saw the foam's incessant scimitar Leap from the billow's sheath, and heard the cry Of winds unleashed upon the western sky. Forlorn beyond the darkling waters lay The sullen embers of the pyre of day, Dull, ere obscuring night should make the sea One with the reaches of infinity. Then to the sands his gaze returned, to meet The seaward print of unreturning feet. Gone was the shell, a sword lay in its stead, From altars of the buried sun made red, A blade he knew so well from all the rest, It seemed that instant to transfix his breast. Afar or near, on waters grey and lone, No swimmer drave, no arm uplifted shone. Austere and vacant rolled the cryptic main, Unsearchable, the prince came not again. Unseen on tawny beach or waters loud, Gone like the shadow of a vanished cloud. Ay, better vanish than to wait as he, Duandon, silent by the unmastered sea, From which till death his heart was doomed to crave The uncomprehended tidings of the wave. An echo of that music from the shell, Forever vibrant in its fall and swell, Was fated, still from azure gulfs to dream. He saw the arm of some white swimmer gleam, Flung for an instant from the shifting spray, Siren or sun or both he could not say. And feelest thou no pangs of beauty lost, When morning waves or waters sunset crossed Cry to thy soul, unsatisfied, alone, Of isles to which its younger dreams have flown? The might have been, the nevermore to be, Bears not the deep their antiphon to thee? For man has found, as man shall ever find, Some echo of his travail on the wind, And sigh of great departures, and the breath Of pinions incontestable by death. Of stars and shadows past tomorrow's ken He finds him vision and announcement, When, as storms beyond the horizon line prolong The sea's imperious, eternal song, The thunder chorded surf on yellow sands Resounds, like harps on which the gods lay hands. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. Three Sonnets of the Night Sky by George Sterling. Read for LibriVox.org by Sonia. 1. Aldebaran at Dusk. Thou art the star for which all evening waits, O star of peace, come tenderly and soon. As for the drowsy and enchanted moon, she dreams in silver at the eastern gates, Ere yet she brim with light the blue estates Abandoned by the eagles of the noon. But shine thou swiftly on the darkling dune And woodlands where the twilight hesitates. Above that wide and ruby lake to west, Wherein the sunset waits reluctantly, Stir silently the purple wings of night. She stands afar, upholding to her breast, As mighty murmurs reach her from the sea, Thy lone and everlasting rose of light. 2. The Chariots of Dawn. O night, is this indeed the morning star, That now with brandished and impatient beam On eastern heights of darkness flames supreme? Or some great captain of the dawn, whose car Scornful of all thy rearguard ranks that bar His battle, now foreruns the helms that gleam Below horizons of dissevering dream, Who lifts his javelin to his hosts afar? Now I am minded of some ocean king That in a war of gods has wielded arms, And still in slumber hears their harness ring, And dreams of isles where golden altars fume, Till, mad for irretrievable alarms, He passes down the seas to some strange doom. 3. The Huntress of Stars. Tell me, O night, what horses hail the moon? Those of the sun rear now on Syria's day, But here the steeds of Artemis delay At heavenly rivers hidden from the noon, Or quench their starry thirst at cisterns hewn In midnight's deepest sapphire, ere she slay The bull and hide the Pleiades' dismay, or drown Orion in a silver swoon? Are those the stars, and not their furious eyes, that now before her coming chariot glare? Is that their nebulous phantasmal breath, trailed like a mist upon the winter skies, or vapours from a Titan's pyre of death, far wafted on the orbit of Altair? End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. The Evanescent by George Sterling. Read for LibriVox.org by Sonia. The Evanescent. The wind upon the mountain's side sang to the dew. My moments fly. In yonder valley I must die. How long thy restless gems abide? Lo, to the bent and laden grass there came the whisper of the dew. My lessening hours, how fleet and few! What months are thine, ere thou shalt pass? The grass made murmur to the tree, My days a little time are fair, But oh, thy brooding years to share, The centuries that foster thee! Ere died the wind, the tree had said, O mountain marvellous and strong, The aeons of thine age, how long, When I and all my kin lie dead? The mountain spake, O sea, thy strength Forevermore I shall not face. At last I sink to thine embrace, Thy waves await my rampart's length. The deep gave moan, O stars supreme, Your eyes shall see me mute in death. Before your gaze I fade like breath Of vapours in a mortal stream. Then bore the void a choral cry, Descendant from the starry throng. A little, and our ancient song Dies at thy throne, Eternity. Then silence on the heavenly deep, Wherein that music sank unheard, As shuts the midnight on a word Said by a dreamer in his sleep. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. Memory by George Sterling. Read for LibriVox.org by Sonia. Memory. She stands beside the ocean of the past, a diver. Pearls and hydras can she bring, shells for the child, and crystals for the king. Prone on her reefs the sea essaying mast and keels that dared the hurricane are cast. Trophies of tides, invincible, that swing around the islands where the sirens sing, the magic of whose song is hers at last. Some shadow of the glory she restores, though wave and wind devour the ships of dream. For many mark her ere the fall of night, when the surf's sound is mighty on her shores, singing as wildly on her bosom gleam the sea dews and the rubies of the light. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. The Moth of Time by George Sterling. Read for LibriVox.org by Sonia. The Moth of Time. Lo, this audacious vision of the dust, this dream that it hath dreamt, unresting wings too strong for time, too frail for timeless things. Whence all thy thirst for God, thy piteous lust for life to be when matter's chain shall rust? What pact hast thou with the undying kings, Silence and Death? What Sibyl's counsellings assure thee that the eternal laws are just? Nay, all thy hopes are nothing to the night, and justice but a figment of thy dream. Upon the waste what wide mirages glow, with hills that shift, and palms that mock the sight, and cities on the desert's far extreme. Those vales we name, and dare to think we know. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. The Black Vulture by George Sterling. (1809–1849) THE BLACK VULTURE. Aloof upon the day's immeasured dome, He holds unshared the silence of the sky. Far down his bleak relentless eyes descry The eagle's empire and the falcon's home. Far down the galleons of sunset roam, His hazards on the sea of morning lie. Serene he hears the broken tempest sigh Where cold sierras gleam like scattered foam. And least of all he holds the human swarm, Unwitting now that envious men prepare To make their dream and its fulfilment one, When, poised above the cauldrons of the storm, Their hearts, contemptuous of death, shall dare His roads between the thunder and the sun. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. The House of Orchids by George Sterling. (1809–1849) The House of Orchids. Dedicated to Mrs. Joseph B. Corriell. How swift a step from zone to zone! A moment since, the day was cool with winds From linden bowers flown, and breath of mounded hay That ripens on the plains, beneath the shadow of the western hill. But here the air is still, warm as a Lesbian valley's afternoon Made languorous with June, and moist with spirits of unnumbered rains, Pervaded with a perfume that might be Of rainbow haunted lands beyond the sea And ocean ending sands, a ghost of fragrance whose elusive hands Touch not the hidden harp of memory. What sprites are those that gleam? Can eyes betray? Till now I did not deem That beauty's flaming hands could shape in bloom So marvellous and delicate designs. The vision here that shines Seems not a fabric of our mortal day And nature's tireless loom, by custom long defiled, But symbol of a loveliness supreme, A god's forgotten dream, in alabaster told By elfin skill, in caverns underneath a haunted hill, Or in some palace of enchantment hewn From crystal in the twilights of the moon, Where white Astarte strays, and Echo and the silver footed fays Make alien music fugitive and wild. Ye seem as flowers exiled, more beautiful Because they die so soon. But who the gods that could have scorned Your tenderness unmarred? Put first ye forth your fragile wings, Less of the form than of the soul of things, Where seraphim had mourned, in Eden's evening, heavy starred, When first the gates were barred and cruel time began? For mystery hath lordship here, and ye Seem spirit flowers born to startle men With intimations of eternity, And hint of what the flowers of heaven may be. Nor can your glamour greatly seem of earth. Her blossoms are of mirth, but ye With loveliness can tell of grief, Unhappy love, most exquisite and brief. Winged ye seem and fleet, such flowers pale As are worn by the goddess of a distant star, Before whose holy eyes beauty and evening meet, Mysterious beauty delicate and strange, And evening calm that sighs With music's inexpressible surmise, Her question ere she dies. From form to form ye range, from hue to hue, And this, with petals wan and mystical, Seems votive to those spirits of the dew That weep at sylvan twilight silently, With tears that gently fall on hidden elves Dim curtained by the rose. And thou, thy chalice better glows In purple grottos where the stainless sea On sands inviolable swirls, On evanescent pearls that hold not all thy bosom's purity. And thou, more white than when on some blue lake, Just as the zephyrs wake, The ripples flash to light, Touched by a swan's unsullied breast to foam, Hadst thou in melancholy halls thy home? For long ago thou seemest to have slept, Forlorn, in palace glooms where queens have wept. Ah, they too slept at last, whose sighs are half the music of the past. But thou, O palest one, dost seem to scorn the sun, And in a tropic dense languid magnificence Desire to know thy former place, Where no man comes at night, And in its antic flight Behold the vampire bat veer off from thee as from a phantom face, Or watch Antares' light peer craftily Down from the dank and moonless sky, As goblins' eyes might gleam, or baleful rubies glare, Muffled in smoke or incense laden air. And thou, most weird companion, thou dost seem Some mottled moth of hell, That stealthily might fly to hover there Above the carnal bell Of some black lily, still and venomous, And poise forever thus. Chill in thy drowsy ether warm, Softly thou gleamest, subtle of form. Witch bloom thou seem'st to be, for Lilith would have bound thee in her hair, Smiling at dusk inscrutably, and Circe gathered such for gods to wear In evenings when the moon, a sorceress who steals in white Along the cloudy parapets of night, In every glade her ghostly pearl has strewn. Thou art as violet wan as eyelids of a vestal dead and meek. If after life can come to blossoms gone, Surely Persephone shall crown her brow with thee, In realms where burns nor star nor sun, To show the dead what amaranth to seek. And ah, this other, none of all thy kin More purely is arrayed, Pallid as Aphrodite's cheek, To some long passion swoon betrayed, By ecstasy foretold. Yet as with blood thy bosom gleams, Red as Adonis' wound it seems, By Syria mourned of old, Or scarlet lips that drink from bowls of jade, Slowly, an ivory poison, sweet and cold. O mystically strange, that speechless things Should so have power to hint, With subtle form and tint, That seize the heart's high memories unaware, The sorrow and the mystery of change, And elements in fate's controlling plan, Not altogether ministrant to man, Nor mindful of his care, Some joy to death akin, or tragic kiss, Or fruit malignly fair, Some garden built by sin, For love to wander in, Some face whose beauty bids the heart despair. And yet, O blossoms pure, how marvellous the lure Of your fragility and innocence, This grace and wistfulness of helpless things That ask no recompense. Ye give the spirit wings, for yours the beauty that is near to pain, And stir the heart again With visions of the flowers that abide. Ah, sweet, as when love's glances meet Across the music heard at eventide. Loyden, June 1909. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. Sonnets on the Sea's Voice by George Sterling. Read for LibriVox.org by Sonia. Sonnets on the Sea's Voice. 1. Thou seem'st to call to that which will not hear, As man to fate. Thine anthems uncontrolled From winnowed sands and reefs reverberant rolled, Shake as with sorrow, and the hour is near Wherein thy voice shall seem a thing of fear, Like to a lion's at the trembling fold, And man shall waken to the midnight cold, And feel that dawn is far, that night is drear. Thou wert, ere life, a dim but quenchless spark, Found vesture in thy vastness. Thou shalt be, when life hath crossed the threshold of the dark, When shackling ice hath zoned at last thy breast, And thy deep voice is hushed, O vanquished sea, One with eternity, that giveth rest. 2. No cloud is on the heavens, And on the sea no sail, The immortal, solemn ocean lies Unbroken sapphire to the walling skies, Immutable, supreme in majesty. The billows, where the charging foam leaps free, Burden the winds with thunder. Soul, arise! For ghostly trumpet blasts and battle cries Across the tumult wake the past for thee. They call me to a dim, disastrous land, Where fallen marbles tell of mighty years, Heroic architraves, but where the gust Ripples forsaken waters. Lo, I stand with armies round about, and in mine ears The roar of harps reborn from legend's dust. III. How very still this odorous dim space amid the pines! The light is reverent, pausing as one Who stands with meek intent On thresholds of an everlasting place. A single iris waits in weary grace, Her countenance before the dawning bent, As faith might linger, hushed and innocent, With all an altar's glory on her face. But silence now is hateful. I would be By midnight dark and wild as Satan's soul, Where the wind's unreturning charioteers lash, With the hurtling scourges of the sea, Their frantic steeds to some tempestuous goal, The deep's enormous music in their ears. IV. O thou unalterable sea, how vast thine utterance! What portent in thy tone, As here thy giant choirs, august, alone, Roll forth their diapason to the blast! Great waters hurled, and broken and upcast In timeless splendor and immeasured moan, As though eternity to years unknown Bore witness of the sorrows of the past. Thou callest to a deep within my soul, Untraversed and unsounded. At thy voice Abysses move with phantoms unbegot. What paeans haunt me, and what pangs control Thunders wherewith the seraphim rejoice, And mighty hunger for I know not what. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. Autumn by George Sterling. Read for LibriVox.org by Sonia. Autumn. Now droops the troubled year, and now her tiny sunset stains the leaf. A holy fear, a rapt, elusive grief, Make imminent the swift exalting tear. The long wind's weary sigh, knowest, O listener, for what it wakes? Adown the sky what star of time forsakes her pinnacle? What dream and dreamer die? A presence half divine Stands at the threshold, ready to depart Without a sign. Now seems the world's deep heart about to break. What sorrow stirs in mine? A mist of twilight rain Hides now the orange edges of the day. In vain we labor that thou stay, Beauty who wast, and shalt not be again. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. Stars of the Noon by George Sterling. Read for LibriVox.org by Sonia. Stars of the Noon. Untaught, I meet the question of the hours, Travail and prayer and call. But ye, with stillness deeper than the flowers, O stars, can answer all. Now, though the sapphire walls of noon forbid Your beams compassionate withheld by light, As love by silence hid, unchanging ye await. Till day, whom all the swords of sunset bar From Eden's daily lost, pass, and your lonely armies sink afar To oceans nightly crossed. Ah, when ere long I watch your kingdoms reach Past the departed sun, will ye in silence holier than speech Tell that our ways are one? That I, as ye, vanish a while in day, The day we reckon night, till dusks of birth reveal the backward way to darkness reckoned light. Come, for the ancient altar waits your flame, the seas of shadow call, and, exile of a land I cannot name, homesick I question all. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. The Apothecaries by George Sterling. Read for LibriVox.org by Sonia. The Apothecaries. Its red and emerald beacons from the night draw human moths in melancholy flight, with beams whose gaudy glories point the way to safety or destruction, choose who may. Crystal and powder, oils or tincture clear, such the dim sight of man beholds, but here await, indisputable in their power, great presences, abiding each his hour. And for a little price rash man attains this council of the perils and the pains, this parliament of death and brotherhood omniponent for evil and for good. Venoms of vision, myrrh of splendid swoons, they wait us past the green and scarlet moons. Here prisoned rest the tender hands of peace, and there an angel at whose bidding cease the clamours of the tortured sense, the strife of nerves confounded in the war of life. Within this vial pallid sleep is caught, in that the sleep eternal. Here are sought such webs as in their agonizing mesh draw back from doom the half reluctant flesh. There back the traitor joys to him who buys, and death sits panoplied in gorgeous guise. The dusts of hell, the dews of heavenly sods, water of Lethe or the wine of gods, purchase who will, but ere his task begin, beware the service that you set the Jinn. Each hath his mercy, each his certain law, and each his lord behind the veil of awe. But ponder well the ministry you crave, lest he be final master, you the slave. Each hath a price, and each a tribute gives to him who turns from life, and him who lives. If so you win from pain a swift release, his face shall haunt you in the house of peace. If so from pain you scorn an anodyne, peace shall repay you with a draught divine. Though toil and time be now by them surpassed, exact the recompense they take at last. These genii of the vials, wreaking still their sorceries on human sense and will. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. The Swimmers by George Sterling. Read for LibriVox.org by Sonia. The Swimmers. We were 8 fishers of the western sea, who sailed our craft beside a barren land, where harsh with pines the herdless mountains stand, and lonely beaches be. There no man dwells, and ships go seldom past, yet sometimes there we lift our keels ashore, to rest in safety mid the broken roar and mist of surges vast. One strand we know, remote from all the rest, for north and south the cliffs are high and steep, whose naked leagues of rock repel the deep, insurgent from the west. Tawny it lies, untrodden ever by man, save when from storm we sought its narrow rift, to beach our craft and light a fire of drift, and sleep till day began. Along its sands no flower nor bird has home, abrupt its breast girt by no splendour save the whirled and curving emerald of the wave, and scarfs of rustling foam. A place of solemn beauty, yet we swore, by all the ocean stars' unhasting flight, to seek no refuge for another night upon that haunted shore. That year a sombre autumn held the earth. At dawn we sailed from out our village bay. We sang, a taut wind lapped along the day, the sea-birds mocked our mirth. Southwest we drave, like arrows to a mark, ere set of sun the coast was far to lee, where thundered over by the white-hoofed sea the reefs lie gaunt and dark. But when we would have cast our hooks, The main grew wroth a sudden, and our captain said, "Seek we a shelter," and the west was red. God gave his winds the rain. And eastward lay the sands of which I told. Thither we fled, and on the narrow beach Drew up our keels beyond the lessening reach Of waters green and cold. Then set the wounded sun. The wind blew clean the skies, a wincing star came forth at last. We heard like mighty tollings on the blast The shock of waves unseen. The wide-winged eagle hovered overhead, the scorpion crept slowly in the south To pits below the horizon. In its mouth Lay a young moon that bled. And from our fire the ravished flame swept back, like yellow hair of one who flies apace, Compelled in lands barbarian to race With lion on her track. Then from the maelstroms of the surf arose Wild laughter, mystical, and up the sands Came two that walked with intertwining hands Amid those ocean snows. Ghostly they shone before the lofty spray, Fairer than gods and naked as the moon, The foamy fillets at their ankles strewn Less marble white than they. Laughing they stood, then to our beacon's glare Drew nearer, as we watched in mad surprise The scarlet flashing lips, the sea green eyes, The red and tangled hair. Then spoke the god, goddess and god they seemed, In harp-like accents of a tongue unknown. About his brows the dripping locks were blown, Like wannest gold he gleamed. Staring we sat, again the vision spoke. Beyond his form we saw the billows rave, The leap of those white leopards in the wave, The spume of seas that broke. Yet sat we mute, for then a human word Seemed folly's worst, and scorn began to trace Its presence on the wild, imperious face. Again the red lips stirred, but spoke not. In an instant we were free from that enchantment. Fleet as deer they turned, and sudden amber leapt the sands they spurned. We saw them meet the sea. We heard the seven-chorded surf, unquelled, Call in one thunder to the granite walls. But over all, like broken clarion calls, Disdainful laughter welled. Then silence, save for cloven wave and wind. Our fire had faltered on its little dune. Far out a fog wall reared, and hid the moon. The night lay vast and blind. Silent we waited the assuring morn Which rose on angered waters. But we set our hooded prows to sea, and tempest wet beat up the coast forlorn. And no man scorned our tale, for well they knew had mystery befallen. In our eyes were alien terrors and unknown surmise. Men saw the tale was true. And no man seeks a refuge on that shore, Though tempests gather in impelling skies. Unseen, unsolved, unhazarded it lies, Forsaken evermore. For on those sands immaculate and lone, Perchance day lists the sea's immeasured lyre, When sunset casts an evanescent fire Through billows thunder sown. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. Beneath the Redwoods by George Sterling. Read for LibriVox.org by Sonia. Beneath the Redwoods. O trees, so vast, so calm! Softly ye lay on heart and mind today The unpurchasable balm. Ere yet the wind can cease, your mighty sigh Is spirit of the sky, half sorrow and half peace. Mourn ye your brothers slain, that now afar From hush and dews and star Man barters for his gain? Mourn them with all your boughs, for I must mourn, in seasons yet unborn, The cares that they will house. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. Music at Dusk by George Sterling. Read for LibriVox.org by Sonia. Music at Dusk. O twilight, twilight! Evermore to hear The wounded viols pleading to thy heart, To dream we watch thy purple wings depart, To wake and know thy presence always near. What dost thou on the pathway of the sun? Abide thy sister Night, while strains so pure Make heaven and all its beauty seem too sure, And all too certain her oblivion. One star awakes to turn thee from the south. O linger in the shadows thou hast drawn, Ere night cast dew before the feet of dawn, Or silence lay her kiss on music's mouth. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. The Tides of Change by George Sterling. Read for LibriVox.org by Sonia. The Tides of Change. Wherewith is beauty fashioned? Canst thou deem her evanescent roses burgeon, Safe within the sunlight tender on her grave? Awake no winds, but bear her dust, a gleam In morning's prophecy or sunset's dream, And every cry that ever sirens gave From islands mournful with the choiring wave Was echo of a music once supreme. All aeons, conquests, excellencies, stars, All pain and peril of seraphic wars, Were met to shape thy soul's divinity. Pause, for the breath of gods is on thy face. The ghost of dawns forgotten and to be Abides a moment in the twilight's grace. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. Morning Twilight by George Sterling. Read for LibriVox.org by Sonia. Morning Twilight. An early thrush acclaims the light. The wide, low billowing day O'er dews and grasses chill with night Upcasts its foam of grey. Now end the darkness and its dreams. The ashen moon is low. Like petal drift on placid streams We watch her sink and go. And like a dryad to a tree The morning star hath sped, Gone ere an eye essayed to see The path whereon she fled. Hark how, as here we stand, The wards of woodlands newly green, The pines' innumerable chords, Are touched by hands unseen. Hearing, the forest seems forlorn, And all the air a sigh Of things that seek a vaster morn, And find it not, and die. O tranquil hour! The haggard noon Shall make a ghost of thee, Soon to be memories, and soon not even of memory. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. An Altar of the West by George Sterling. Read for LibriVox.org by Sonia. An altar of the West. Point Lobos, the southern boundary of Carmel Bay. Beauty, what dost thou here? Why hauntest thou this empery of pain, Where men in vain long for another sphere? Art not an exile shy, a dreamer mid the swords, Upon this iron world where men defy Time and its hidden lords? Thou waitest with a splendor on thy brow, And seemest to watch with compensating eyes Each jest our dwarfing fates devise, And after all the strife, this thou, Who standest where the slayer's feet have trod, Perchance a portion of this dream of God That will not go from life. All that man's yearning finds beyond its reach Thou hast in promise, giving to his heart A rapturous sadness all too wild for speech, A glory past the thresholds of his art, Though nature tell it with the wind, and beckon him to find. Thou dost reward our barren years, our very tears, The dews of memory will lovely as the dew Could grief but see. What marvel fills thine evenings, dawns, and noons? The dryad haunted hills, and gold of reeds That wait the lips of Pan? Silence and silver one in wasting moons, The stains of mornings beautiful ere time began, and wine-souled autumn and the ghostly rains. A bird in moonlit valleys of enchantment heard the fall of sunsets past the sea, and shadow of celestial pearls to be, were meet in day the night's last star, the morning's youngest ray. On thine incarnate face could we but look, would not we die, desiring overmuch? And yet we sigh, who find on land and sea thy radiant touch, and dream thou hast on earth a secret nook, a glade supremely blest, in woodlands where thou wanderest unseen. Hath not the snowy north, or star-concealing ocean of the west, a court wherein thou sittest queen, a temple whence thou goest forth, an altar for our quest? Goddess, one such I know, and fain would praise, though less the gift my words bestow than tapers mid the blaze of peaceless stars that gather at thy throne, yet seems it most thine own. Past Carmel lies a headland that the deep, a Titan at his toil, has graven with the measured surge and sweep of waves that broke 10,000 years ago. Here winds assoil that blow from unfamiliar skies and isolating waters of the west, deep channeled by the billows' rage it lies, as though the land thrust forth a vast, tree-shaggy hand to bar the furious ocean from its breast. Here beauty would I seek, for this I deem her home, and surely here the sea-adoring Greek, Poseidon, unto thee thy loftiest temple had been swift to rear, of chosen marble and chalcedony, pure as the irrevocable foam. Ere evening from this granite bulwark gaze, above the deeper sapphire that the winds drag to and fro, a zone of coldest chrysoprase tells where the sunlight finds the glimmering shoal. How slow yon clouds, like giants overthrown, sink to the ocean's western verge, from whence incessant roll, through unresponding years, the waves whose anthem challenges the soul, the everlasting surge whose ancient salt is in our blood and tears. Listen, with sight made blind, and dream thou hearest on the according wind the music of the gods again, the murmur of their slain, and firmamental echo of great wars. See how the wave in sudden anger flings white arms about a rock to drag it down. No siren sings, but in that pool of crystal gleams her crown, flung on a rocky shelf, grey jewels, cold and agates of the elf, that in yon scarlet cavern still is hid, mid shells that mock the dawn. Here, where the northern surges swayed upon a beach of amber, where a faun might clasp the beauty of a Nereid, translucent waters cover loops of jade. Beyond, the sea-scorched walls uphold a mount of granite, steep and harsh, where cling along its rugged length the cypress legions, melancholy, old. Over wasting cliff and strand, in terraced emerald they stand, against the sky, each elder tree a king, whose fame the wordless billows magnify. 1,000 winters of achieving storm moulded each mighty form to beauty and to strength. 1,000 more shall raven ere they die. But wander to the verge again, where the immeasurable main below the red horizon rears its wall, the day's enormous pyre, whence oft, in mighty sunsets of the west, the world seems menaced by invading fire. Dost hear no call from these Hesperian islands of the blest, that wait the quest of galleys of adventure, launched at dawn, and seaward on the tides of peril drawn? The skyline's crimson harbours seem to hold, at dusk, their prows of gold. Now, ere the stars come out along the wind, the veering sea-birds find the refuge that they crave on cliffs above the weedy mouth of some reverberant cave, in which the ocean's monstrous chuckle wakes. Fast comes the night. The west withholds at last those last red relics of departing light that once were noon. Hark how the billow breaks, forever cast on reefs round which wild waters and the moon weave silver garlands. Foamy fillets strewn along her shining pathway to the south. The stars arise, and westward now the eagle holds their van. See how the Pleiads, like hounds in leash before Aldebaran, strain up the shifting skies. The cypress trees, Drenched in the milk of the moon, conspirant seem The surf a chant of giants heard afar, While seaward gleam The lamps of Lyra and the evening star. The midnight hushes all, the winds are dumb, Eastward Orion treads the mountain wall. But lo! what visitant is on the gloom? Beauty and mystery and terror meet At this her chosen seat. The rising fog is come, White as the moon's cold hands laid on a marble tomb. Slow swarm the dragon bands, those pallid monsters of the mist That nose the granite bare and glide along the flanks Of hill and headland, where the cypress ranks Are crouched like silent foes, relentless and aware. Far to the sombre hills they roam, like winds that have no home, And creep, unhasting and intent, Along the muffled deep, as though malignly sent From Lethe's murmur and the starless foam. They pass, and now again the moon is free, Slow pacing with the signs about her head. Soon shall the dawn arise, and find her fled From yon blue battlement, as though a pearl Were hidden by the sea. Beauty, what dost thou here? Why hauntest thou the house where death is lord, And over thy crown appear The inexorable shadow and the sword? Art not a mad mirage above a grave? The foam, foredriven of a perished wave? A clarion afar? A lily on the waters of this pond? A ray that leaping from our whitest star Shows but the night beyond? And yet thou seemest more than all the rest That eye and ear attest, a watch-tower on the mountains, whence we see on future skies The rose of dawn to be. The altar of an undiscovered shore, a dim assurance and a proud surmise, A gleam upon the bubble, time, the vision, fleet, sublime, Of sorrowed man, the brute that dare to dream. Ah, those and more, made veritable though the heart descry No path to thy demesne, and music builds unseen Her heaven we shall not enter though we die. Still must thou speak, august and consecrate, Of that reality we can but seek, Though seeking fail, that sun eternal and inviolate, Whereof thou art the portent and the veil. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. The Faun by George Sterling. Read for LibriVox.org by Sonia. The Faun. Now in the noontide peace I lie, Where waving grass is green, With bosom open to the sky, And not a cloud between. At dawn, one cast from out the blue A shadow on my lanes, Then vanished with the dwindling dew, And not a wisp remains. An hour ago I watched an ant Haste homeward with her spoil. She had, by Jove his covenant, No quittance of her toil. Doubtless they be a thrifty race, Whose works shall not depart. O Jove, who grantest each his place, Teach not to me their art. I and my kin shall pass ere long, And ants shall ever be, But better now the linnet's song Than their eternity. What though my people perish soon, Awhile the dews we crush, When nights of summer mould the moon, And laughters wake a thrush? From yonder hill I spy on man And marvel at his need, Who fashions in a season's span 1,000 fanes to greet. Perchance from each, his worship done, He ventures forth repaid. But grant thou me the spendthrift sun, And berries of the glade. At noon great Caesar's chariot passed, A poison on the air. But drive he slow or drive he fast, The journey's end is care. Care, at whose throne all mortals stand, With tinsel crowns put by, Too weak to rove the billowed land, Too sad to watch the sky. Mid ivied trunks I see her gleam, The nymph, my forest mate. She wanders by the lyric stream, To us articulate. A golden house let Caesar build, To hold his ghosts and gods. For me the summer eves are stilled, For me the flower nods. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. The Voices by George Sterling. (read_for_LibriVox.org) The Voices. Last night the granite headland loomed, a Titan on the night, about whose knees the billows boomed, enormous, baffled, white. And now, to morning's throne of gold, murmurs the chastened sea. Its thunder and its whispers hold the self-same mystery. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. A Character by George Sterling. (read_for_LibriVox.org) A Character. Blunt as a child, since child he was at heart, and son sincere, my friend to many seemed Dull, rude, aggressive, tactless. Add to all his bulk and hairiness and stormy laugh, and one can find them some excuse for that. 'Twas seeming only. We who found his soul through friendship's crystal saw beyond the glass the elusive seraph. In his mind were met the faun, the cynic, the philosopher, but first of all the poet. Give to such Apollo's guise, and matters were not well. Too glad to pose, ofttimes he held his peace before the jest that sought his heart, but let the whim appeal, and all his mind took fire. The shifted diamond's instant shock of light. Beauty to him, as wine's ecstatic draught, richer than blood, and every drop a dream, was like a wind some hidden world put forth, to baffle, madden, lure, at times betray, then win him back to worship with a breath of Edens never trodden. Yet he stood no dupe to nature in her harlotry. Her guile, her blind injustice, and the abrupt ferocities of chance, but swift to face the unkempt fact, and swift no less to snatch its honey from illusion's stinging hive. No moth that beat upon time's enginery. Yet loved he nature well, as one might love a half-tamed leopardess, for beauty's grace alone. Within his enigmatic soul sorrow and art made love their servitor, for he would have no master but himself. To what best liken him? Some singer must have used the star-souled Jode's rind and heart, telling of such as he. Let me compare his rugged aspect and auroral mind to that white shell our western ocean grants. Without, all harsh and hueless, with, perhaps, a group of barnacles or tattered reed. Within, such splendor as would make one guess that once a score of dawnings and a troop of royal sunsets had condensed their pomp to rainbow lacquer which the ocean powers had lavished, godlike, on the gorgeous bowl. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. The Guerdon of the Sun by George Sterling. (read_for_LibriVox.org) The Guerdon of the Sun. Of all the fonts from which man's heart has drawn some essence of the majesty of earth, some intimation of the human worth, I reckon first the sunset and the dawn. For those were fires whose splendour smote his clay with witness of a light beyond the clod. Enshrined, he made of radiance a god, and found his benediction in the day. And all his eager hands have found to do, and all his tireless hope and love unite, in some wise take their symbol from the light, our very heaven based on heaven's blue. Tilth beyond tilth he waits upon the sun, the first to goad, the last to calm his breast, with dawns that like a clarion break his rest, and afterglows that crown his labour done. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. The Gardens of the Sea by George Sterling. (read_for_LibriVox.org) The Gardens of the Sea. Beneath the ocean's sapphire lid we gazed far down, and who had dreamed, till pure and cold its treasures gleamed, what lucent jewels there lay hid? Opal and jacinth, orb and shell, calice and filament of jade, and fonts of malachite inlaid with lotus and with asphodel. Red sparks that give the dolphin pause, lamps of the ocean elf, and gems long lost from crystal diadems, and veiled in shrouds of glowing gauze. Below, the sifted sunlight passed to twilight, where the azure blaze of scentless flowers from the haze about their dim pavilions cast. Betrayed what seemed forgotten pearls, as shimmering weeds alert with light entice the half reluctant sight to caverns where the sea kelp swirls. Splendid and chill those gardens shone, where sound is not, and tides are winds, where fugitive the naiad finds eternal autumn hushed and lone. Till one had said that in her bowers were mixed the nacres of the dawn, that thence the sunset's dyes were drawn, and there the rainbow sank its towers. Where gorgeous flowers of chrysoprase in songless meadows bared their blooms, the deep's unweariable looms with shifting splendors lured the gaze. And zoned on iridescent sands pellucid glories came and went, silver and scarlet madly blent in living stars and blazoned bands. Hydras of emerald and blue were part of swaying tapestries, whose woof from ivies of the seas stole each inquietude of you. And in those royal halls lay lost the oriflammes and golden oars of argosies from lyric shores, mid glimmering crowns and croziers tossed. And purple poppies vespertine glowed on the weird and sunken ledge, beyond whose rich vermilion edge rose tentacles from shapes unseen. Undulant bronze and glossy toils that shuddered in the lustrous tide, and forms in restless crimson dyed that caught the light in stealthy coils. Far down we gazed, nor dared to dream what final sorceries would be when in those gardens of the sea the lilies of the moon should gleam. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. The Sibyl of Dreams by George Sterling. Read for LibriVox.org by Sonia. The Sibyl of Dreams. The rose she gathers is invisible, but ah, its fragrance on the visioned air, the scent of Paphian flowers warm and fair, the breath of blossoms delicate and chill, by Dian tended on her vestal hill, and soul of that one orchid of despair, found by Persephone when unaware she bent to pluck, and hell and heaven grew still. Oh, in what lily's deep and splendid cup shall ever evening dryads hope to find so marvellous a nectar of delight? In valleys of enchantment gathered up by hesitating spirits of the wind, and borne in rapture to the lips of night. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. The Music of Sleep by George Sterling. Read for LibriVox.org by Sonia. The Music of Sleep. What crown of dews and opals morning wore I knew not, taken in the toils of sleep. For mine it was the ways profound to keep, where seas of dream break on a phantom shore to mysteries of music evermore. There shone no star on headland nor on steep, and past the vague horizon of that deep, on isles unknown, I heard its billows roar. Eastward the everlasting fountains welled, till over my rest the dayspring's golden tide on hills that are, and nearer seas was whirled. But sealed within my haunted brows I held the forms that pass, the shadows that abide, and music of the soul's dim underworld. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. Duty by George Sterling. Read for LibriVox.org by Sonia. Duty. White on its road we saw her chariot shine, and she, unturning, passed with lifted gaze, as Pleasure stood in arrogant amaze, and looked in question on his scorned wine. Love from her steeds leapt back with frightened eyne, indignant, splendid, and the hostile blaze of Pain's effulgence from his hidden ways seemed but her beacon to a goal divine. Then fell intensest shadow on her path, whereat one cried, "Behold, the sword of death! Shall mortal face unfaltering the wrath?" And silence held our multitude. But she passed on as to a thing of spectral breath, a fantasy that was not, nor could be. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. The Echo and the Quest by George Sterling. Read for LibriVox.org by Sonia. The Echo and the Quest. Now, as the west is red, O birds, my clumsy arts you bring to naught. A victim of the curse of thought, I tell its pain in trembling words. Your music mocks the bitter lay, idle as any song of mine, the melody from copse or pine, born at the dying of the day. But oh, the full accomplishment, reproach unplanned but exquisite! Hark how the unpurchased throats transmit the tidings of a world content. To you the tale is all of joy, but we from rapture ask its pang, and though an angel came and sang, our hearts would worship and destroy. And though for ecstasy you sing, our dim descent awaits your tale, and in the song there seems to wail another message than you bring. Unmastered still by disbelief, you tell our doubts in twilight strain, untouched by man's perennial pain, you give some echo of his grief. Or so we dream. The very wind serves at the soul's aeolian chords, rulers dismayed, uncertain lords, in all we find, ourselves we find. But you escape the nets of care. Whither at last my feet shall go, I know not. From your song I know you find the truth, and find it fair. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. Justice by George Sterling. Read for LibriVox.org by Sonia. Justice. Nyla, the youth, firstborn, whose father's name was honored in his marketplace of Ind, loved Unda, and the dreaming twain, betrothed, waited the springtide and their marriage rites. The springtide came, but Nyla's joy came not, for she, the girl that was to be his bride, was ravished from her lover, kin, and home, prey to the bull-necked Rajah on the hill. Then Nyla, heedless of his father's hope, vanished. Anon before the palace gate that looked across the palm-tops to the south, and whence the road ran eastward to the town, there sat one cowled, a grey and mournful shape, who spoke not, and was deemed, for silence, saint, who lived upon the offerings of the poor, and gave no sign nor vision of his face to slave nor counsellor. For, said the youth, it well may be that on some day she fare forth to the temple or to other ends, and shall I not know her as she goes, though jewelled curtains hide the loyal face? Ay, but to be as near to her as now, and do her service once in all my days, were better than despair. Yet if men find that I am Nyla, they may well discern wherefore I wait, and so the Rajah know, or at the least my kindred draw me hence. He waiting, season after season came, with weal and woe unto the sons of men, the time of sowing and the time to reap, summer and crashing of the winter rain, and plague and famine, gods that slew unseen. He heard the stars plot evil unto men, and saw the baleful meteor float to light, and many suns look down upon man's pain. The days had each their will of him, the years wrought as with cunning chisels. Gaunt he grew, a silent watcher by the carven gate, and saw his kind go in and forth again, but never one whose coming, with a thrill, sang to his heart, "Lo, I am even she." Hooded, unknown, so sat he mid the crows, sere as the summer, grey as any rain, and watched the flowers' birth and death, and heard the sparrow's song of mating, or the din where the shrill apes held council in the grove. Often, in dreams that broke his daytime's dream, he somehow, somewhere, found the long betrothed far wandered to in sleep's Elysium, and clasped her form, and kissed her deathless lips, hushed in some garden of eternal dews. Then woke to silence and the dark, save where in one lean tower gleamed a shrouded lamp, like some red planet still among the stars, or hung above the temple to the south the failing lanthorn of the moon. Far off a jackal barked, a whisper touched the wind. So for 20 of years his vigil ran, unbroken save for slumber, till his hope, more faint at last for all his hungering than shadows cast by firstling moons, was fled. But in the dust and detriments of noon, and in the midnight still he longed for her, as day by day the marring seasons passed, heedless of his despair. And yet he dreamt, sustained by that which man must find at last, patience, his answer to the sneer of hell. Often he whispered prayer, and in his age spoke unto children and to ancient men, but craved no word of her he loved, in dread lest he be told her death. Then broke a day whereon a hush seemed come to mortal things. A scarlet flower opened, near at hand, scentless. Far up he saw a lonely cloud, cold purple, like a bruise upon the sky. A restless wind plucked at the parent dust, and all the apes were silent in the grove. And Nyla knew his end was near, and felt his soul rise wearily, and welcome death. Then one came forth from out the palace gate, broken and desolate with foul-eyed age, and sat near by, nor held at all her peace, lamenting over some matter of a hen. Whereat said Nyla, "Woman, hast thou word of one whom long ago the Rajah tore from lover and from kin, of her whose name was Unda?" Then the crone bent low her head, and pondered, reaching back to years agone, as one that in the darkness of the sea gropes for a sunken gem. At last she spoke, saying, so long ago, and yet do I remember Unda, for alone of all her band she mourned, nor would be still, wherefore our Lord at last was wroth with her, and put her forth, for that she ever wept, by the northern gate, forbidding that she turn again unto her kindred. And some say that she within the jungle perished, some that to a city of the west she fared, and dwelt in shame. Doubtless she long is dead. And Nyla gazed upon the land and sky, woven for man's illusion, and beheld the scarlet petals fallen from their stem. The cloud had gone, the wind was fled away, and Nyla turned him from the veils of time, and bowed his head and murmured, God is just. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. The Fleet by George Sterling. Read for LibriVox.org by Sonia. The Fleet. Stand fast. Though steel on clanging steel make the contending turret reel, though stern as hell the battle blast from merciless horizons cast, annihilation's breath thunder no word but death. Yea, though the blind sea rave, and all its gulfs gape eager as the grave, sure of your flesh at last, O human hearts, stand fast. And though untested nerve and sinew shrink, trapped and astounded at the final brink, though hostile guns the march to silence toll, beyond it lies the goal, and past a moment's tremor smiles the soul. O brother hearts and brave, we know you strong to save and strong to serve the star that past the dusk of war imperishable gleams. And oh, how little seems the price of death men wait so glad to pay to hold undesecrated every ray. To serve through many nights the youngest of the lights until it burns sublime from uncontested heights, the whitest beacon on the coasts of time. Behold her, our dear country, where she stands beneath the unconquered skies, the sword and trumpet in her sheathed hands, but mercy in her eyes. Behold before her gates, that bar the loyal sea, foaming upon her threshold ceaselessly, each messenger that waits, armed for conclusive fates. Angels of death, made mighty to fulfill, mid thunderings, her will. Behold all these, and know her wisdom's length, her beauty and her strength, and know that farther skies age hence shall see her rise. Hesperus of the high and starry plan, when nations sit unarmored at the feast Of freedom, west and east, leagued in the deathless faith of man with man. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. Remorse by George Sterling. Read for LibriVox.org by Sonia. Remorse. At the sea's verge, near Cypress Point in Monterey County, the rain, wind, sun, and sea have shaped a crag of the Santa Lucian granite into the form of a cowled or crowned figure, bent above the surf. Prelate or king, the twilight tells not which, thou crouchest, silent, by the bitter sea. Immovable, immortal, and alone, abidest thou, and in thy stony ears the changeless moaning of the ancient deep is less than prayer to fate. The flaming noon warms, and the spectral mists of evening chill. Thou heedest not, lapped in granitic dreams, nor hast a glance for setting moon or star. What was thy crime? How long thy bleak remorse? For never venial sin had strength to bind in trance so grim despair so terrible. Gaze, but the stainless wave shall not assoil. Listen, but ever in thy soul must ring the ghostly death cry of a cause betrayed, an empire lost, a people cast to doom. So might the spirit of our tragic orb behold, aghast with years, its fell result. And blinded with the vision he had wrought, and dumb with clamours frozen at his heart, ponder, unpitied by eternity, above the rising sea of human tears. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. Moonlight in the Pines by George Sterling. Read for LibriVox.org by Sonia. Moonlight in the Pines. Full starred seraphic night arose, lifting the Pleiads' dim lyre above that solitude where glows, rose red, Aldebaran's fire. Mute, ere the darkness could forget the crystal hour of evening's trance, I felt the little winds that set the mirrored stars a dance. On restless leaves I heard them pass, to touch the yellow vines that lay like paler pythons in the grass, beside a lonely way. To forest glades at last it led, by silence chosen as her own. The pine's soft sighing overhead seemed but her whispers flown. Scarcely it seemed to cross the bound where she, aloof, stood sorceress, that twilight where the feet of sound pass unto nothingness. A little weary of the speech of burdened man and troubled sea, I stood and dreamed that time would teach her dream of peace to me. And awed by the communing night, forgot the haggard world withdrawn, ere on my face there fell a light as of a spectral dawn. It gleamed beyond the barring pine, that shattered silver of the moon, the midnight's asphodels divine on field and woodland strewn. Among the lesser trees it lay, like veiled and pallid ghosts that slept, about whose forms, as in dismay, the fearful shadows crept. But o'er the dale where silence stood, with tranquil dews austerely crowned, a wilder glory touched the wood, a sense of things profound. And subtlier on the enchanted air the moonlight's nacre seemed to melt, while mosses like a witch's hair stirred to a wind unfelt. And like a messenger of night, mystical, ominous, and slow, a fragile moth, in purposed flight, went past on wings of snow. It may have been that elder powers stood immaterial in the glade, perchance the moon's phantasmal flowers at shrines unseen were laid. For in those aisles it seemed there shone forsaken marbles, pure and cold, the gleam of altars overthrown, and ghostly fanes of old. And since that hour the night can thrill with haunting chords by day unstirred, and Beauty's lips, refusing still, move with a secret word. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. At the Grave of Sarah by George Sterling. Read for LibriVox.org by Sonia. At the grave of Sarah. 'Tis midnight, and the eagle seeks the sea, which, near at hand, eternally intones its woe immeasurable. Through the pane of yonder casement, giving on the south, the moonlight holds a chill and gleaming shaft above the grave where Sarah sleeps. O heart! Flaming, audacious heart, so long in dust! 'Twas thy reward to die ere died thy works, to perish ere the vision too was fled. The vineyard and the orchard and the fold have passed, and passed as well that other flock, thy tenderest concern, O spirit pure, who in an age of infamy and gold saw souls alone. The timbers of thy fane have men at last renewed, but where are they, the humble dusky thousands of thy care? One mould with thee. About thy place of sleep the futile, peering pleasure seekers come, glance and forget. Thy kin in Christ draw near, little in numbers now, and less in faith. For where the faith that grasped thee like a hand, and led thee on to peril and to pain? The lamp burns low. They ask for them a sign. Thou power unseen, whose hands implacable close in despair what man begins in hope, unto what end, O Fate, unto what end dost thou hale forth on quests irradiant thy nobler sons? Is duty but a jest, seeing its guerdon given? In thy sight is goodness even as evil? Shall she find her wages also death? Wilt thou deride our ancient search for justice in thy ways? With bitter viands evermore appease our hunger and our thirst for righteousness? Dost fashion beauty for a moth's desire, and sow thee life to garner thee but dust? The soundless grave is not more still than thou, the moon less hushed in heaven. About my feet the shadows change. I hear the unchanging sea. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. White Magic by George Sterling. Read for LibriVox.org by Sonia. White Magic. Keep ye her brow with starshine crossed, and bind with ghostly light her hair, O powers benign, lest I accost Song's peaceless angel unaware. One eve her whisper came to earth as eastward woke a thorny star, to tell me of her kingdom's worth and what her liberations are. She has the Edens in her gift, and songs of sovereignties unborn. In realms agone her turrets lift, wrought from the purples of the morn. Where swings to foam the dusky sea, she waits with sapphires in her hand, whose light shall make thy spirit be lost in a still enchanted land. Musing she hears the subtle tunes from chords where fairy fingers stray, a rain of pearl from crumbling moons less clear and delicate than they. The strain we lost and could not find, think we her haunted heart forgets? She weaves it with a troubled wind and twilight music that regrets. Often she stands, unseen, aloof, to watch beside an ocean's brink the gorgeous evanescent woof cast from the loom of suns that sink. Often, in eyries of the west, she waits a lover from afar, frailties of blossom on her breast, and over her brow the evening star. She stands to greet him unaware, who cannot find her if he seek, a sigh, a scent of heavenly hair, and oh, her breath is on his cheek. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. Three Sonnets by the Night Sea by George Sterling. Read for LibriVox.org by Sonia. Three Sonnets by the Night Sea. 1. Surely the dome of unremembered nights was heavy with those stars. The peaceless sea, casting in foam their fallen shafts to me, makes ancient music to their awful heights. O quenchless and insuperable lights! What life shall meet your gaze and thence go free from litten midnights of eternity to havens open to your final flights? Abides no goal nor ultimate of peace, nor lifts a beacon on the cosmic deep to guide our wandering world on seas sublime, nor any night to grant a soul release, swung as a pendulum from life to sleep, from sleep to life, from timelessness to time. 2. Now, as I hear upon the caverned night the ocean's ceaseless and stupendous dirge, and one by one the stars approach its verge, the deep seems all one prayer, and the light of farthest suns but questions for the sight of men who yet may test the dark to urge life's portent from the starlight and the surge, and read the ancient mystery aright. Do blinded powers from their darkness seek through human sight that secret to attain? From fonts how distant is the spirit fed? And who are we? And is it we who speak the why we utter to the night of pain, the whither to the unresponding dead? 3. Thou seemest inexhaustible, O sea, and infinite of nature, yet I know that by divine permission could we go within thy sealed and silent deeps, and be of all thy glooms and treasuries made free, the soul at last each marvel would outgrow, till each were vain as festal fires that glow beneath the stars' immortal scrutiny, and were all alien worlds and suns laid bare, till mystery their secret should declare, the finite soon its utmost would impart, and sun nor world at last have power to thrill man's wayward and insatiable heart, which God and all his truth alone can fill. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. After the Storm by George Sterling. Read for LibriVox.org by Sonia. After the Storm. O turquoise morn! Had earth a sorrow? The happy larks, sing they to-day or yesterday, or some enchanted morrow and winds unborn? To slopes of green only the brook can tell in low elusive tones on smooth and fluting stones, where flow the rains that fell by night unseen. Ghost moon, what way wouldst thou be riding? On day's blue diamond thou art a flaw. Beyond, I know, the stars are hiding ere dusk betray. I would not see, for now the day is new, and now a yellow flower suffices to the hour that, and a star of dew it hoards for me. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. The Harlot's Wakening by George Sterling. Read for LibriVox.org by Sonia. The Harlot's Wakening. Ere dawn a spirit took my hand, and once again a joyous child I roamed an unforgotten land of orchards fresh and mild. How fair the apple blossoms were, how cool the long delaying breeze, where half asleep I heard the stir and hum of happy bees. Clear in the meadow ran the brook from pool to pool in liquid grace, a glass over which I bent to look at my unmirrored face. A girlish face, with placid brow, all innocent of care and hate, with eyes I cannot fathom now, and lips undesecrate. My sister's laugh, my brother's call, so would the morning larks rejoice, but nearer, dearer far than all, I heard my mother's voice. Her voice? Or did a music break across the street's harsh sea whose thunder deepens? Christ, I wake to miserable me. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. The Midges by George Sterling. Read for LibriVox.org by Sonia. The Midges. Alcon, the wood god, wandering his realm, found his son Astrius in the meadowland at sunset, squatted on a fallen pine, and much intent upon a swarm of gnats. To whom the godling, "Father, I have stayed this hour to wonder at yon tiny folk, who dart, and hum, and make so much ado, mad with the sunlight. What it is they seek, and whom they praise, and why, I do not know. But as the hour grows old, and twilight hills put on the purple, this I see, that they with wilder zeal do dash this way and that, and where each in a foot of space had range, now flits he too, and shriller grows the cry, larger the host, and greater its concern. Dost note?" Whereat brown Alcon plucked the root, and beat it on the pine, and briefly spake, "Ay, ay, they call it progress." And the sun sank on the forest, and the night was chill. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. To Ambrose Bierce by George Sterling. Read for LibriVox.org by Sonia. To Ambrose Bierce. I saw a statue in the market-place, the guerdon of a life of noble toil. Austerely shone the marble that should foil Oblivion, though the desecrated base, round which the sullen huckster trod, bore trace of dog's defilement, transitory moil that expiating rains would soon assoil. But oh, the sunlight on that tranquil face! What to the Titan were the mindless deed, mire born, and swiftly with the mire made one? No more than could the marble, couldst thou heed the mongrel, and the hate of souls uncouth. Thou eagle, who hast gazed upon the sun, and canst endure the light, which is the truth. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. To Hall B. Rand by George Sterling. Read for LibriVox.org by Sonia. To Hall B. Rand. Happy the man whose age attains repute and rank among the best, whose soul no breath of rumour stains, nor hath remorse for daily guest. On him the years as laurels sit, for duty at his side has stood. Through him the grateful gods permit a living witness unto good. Him shall the love of man surround, and wisdom shield from darker cares, who virtue to the end hath found, and honour whiter than his hairs. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. To Vernon L. Kellogg, by George Sterling. 1812. To Vernon L. Kellogg. 'Tis well that man is slow to cry, alas! That nature's heart seems eager to atone For music often ending in a moan, By silence tender with the peace it has. But ever, as on morning ways I pass, I see the fields with hints of terror sown. A tuft of fur, or small and bleaching bone, Or heap of little feathers in the grass. How fares it with the lesser wards of life? Always they seem so restless, so alert. Is fear to them an unrelenting care, The spirit of that dumb and ravenous strife No power will justify, and none avert? And in the deep, 'tis well we see not there. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. Charles Warren Stoddard, by George Sterling. 1812. Charles Warren Stoddard. O Muse, within thy western hall, To mellow chord and crystal string, At many harps thy chosen sing. His was the gentlest soul of all. He sang not as the leaping fawn By voiceless rivers cool and clear, Nor yet as chants the visioned seer When darkness trembles with the dawn. A milder music held his lyre, A wistful strain, all human sweet, Between the ashes at our feet And stars that pass in alien fire. His skies were sombre, but he lit His garden with a lamp of gold, Where tropic laughters left untold The sadness buried in his wit. Lonely, he harbored to the last A boyish spirit, large and droll. Tardy of flesh and swift of soul, He walked with angels of the past. With tears his laurels still are wet, But now we smile whose hearts have known The fault that harmed himself alone, The art that left a world in debt. Of all he said, I best recall, He knows the sky who knows the sod, And he who loves a flower loves God. Sky, flower and sod, he loved them all. From all he wrote, not for his day, A sense of marvel drifts to me, Of morning on a purpled sea, And fragrant islands far away. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. The Ashes in the Sea, by George Sterling. 1812. The Ashes in the Sea. N.M.F. Whither with blue and pleading eyes, Whither with cheeks that held the light Of winter's dawn on cloudless skies, Evadne, was thy flight? Such as a sister's was thy brow, Thy hair seemed fallen from the moon, Part of its radiance, as now, Of shifting tide and dune. Did autumn's grieving lure thee hence, Or silence ultimate beguile? Ever our things of consequence Awakened but thy smile. Is it with thee that ocean takes A stranger sorrow to its tone? With thee the star of evening wakes, More beautiful, more lone? For wave and hill and sky betray A subtle tinge and touch of thee, Thy shadow lingers in the day, Thy voice in winds to be. Beauty, hast thou discovered her By deeper seas no moon's control? What stars have magic now to stir Thy swift and wilful soul? Or may thy heart no more forget The grievous world that once was home, That here where love awaits thee yet Thou seemest yet to roam? For most, far wandering, I guess, Thy witchery on the haunted mind, In valleys of thy loneliness Made clean with ocean's wind. And most thy presence here seems told A wave of elemental deeps, When, at its vigils unconsoled, Some night of winter weeps. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. The 43rd chapter of Job, By George Sterling. 1809–1849 The 43rd Chapter of Job. 1. Moreover the Lord made question of Job, and asked. 2. To what end dost thou search me, seeing that my wisdom is not as thine? 3. Shalt thou question my ways, or have dreams concerning my justice? Am not I the Lord? 4. Who hath strange laughter, whose judgment are not as those of the elders? 5. Who leadeth the lamb from the den of the she-wolf, and armies to the quicksand? 6. Who slayeth the prince in his youth, and rulers at their marriage feast, but maketh the slave to grow old in his bondage? 7. Whose rains go forth on bitter waters, though the land thirsteth? Who delivers thee from the javelin, thou beholdest not? 8. Who maketh the king in his secret place, and him that the vultures did devour, to sleep the same sleep? 9. Who confoundeth the sea, but leadeth the ant to her desire? 10. Have not I sharpened the beak of the kite against the day of thy hope, the raven's beak against the eyes of thy young men? 11. I shall bar thee from thy joy with a thread of gossamer. I shall bind thy sin to thy children's children with ropes of adamant. 12. The rock is a bolt for my treasure house. Thou knockest in vain upon the doors thereof. 13. Who art thou that eternity should hold parley with thee, or the pits of the sky be thy fortress? 14. Thou abidest in my sight as the smoke of a sacrifice, or as the grey moth in the conspection of the stars. 15. What hast thou if thou hast not me? Thou takest to thee strange wine, and the kiss of the asp that it comfort thee. 16. Awake, let it be always day with thee. Know that I am the Lord. 17. Who ordaineth his truth as the mountains, and the dust as stars that conceive. 18. Who teacheth fear with an arrow, and bitter wisdom to thy young men of war. 19. Who boundeth pain by peace, and setteth a term unto love. 20. Who hath no truce with the day, and slayeth the dark with the sword of mighty mornings. 21. Who buildeth the house of life with coloured beams, and the house of death without a door. 22. Who hath set harps in hell, and given pure gold for the winding sheet of kings. 23. By whose breath are the signs shaken, as a swarm of gnats are they troubled by the wind of his passing. 24. Who yoketh stars to his harrow, and the whirlwind to drag his plough on great waters. 25. Take counsel of me, behold what shapes I have set as my servants. 26. The sun is a coal of my hearth, the moon an ember that I have quenched. 27. Shall not I make her a desolation, and a rock where devils worship? 28. Shall not my gulfs conceive, and mine angels whet their scythes against the day of my reaping? 29. Be thou abased, for they are yet unborn that shall lay thee out. The worm is unhatched that shall consume thee. 30. Wilt thou hold forth to me thy heart in thy hand, or turn for me its leaves that thou hast writ? 31. Thy wisdom profiteth thee nothing, neither the guards within thy citadels. 32. Shall I consider for long the mighty, or the habitations of the strong? 33. Behold, blood shall be in their courts for wine, and the moaning of their concubines for the voice of the viol. 34. I shall break their temples as a shard, their high pillars shall be snapped as a bowstring. 35. My tempest shall neigh in the walled cities, my grass shall lift up her sword against them. 36. The toad shall be judge there, the jackal shall collect the tax. 37. The owl shall feed her young on their altars, the dung of lions shall be thereon for a testimony. 38. Wert thou upon the flint when I confirmed it, or upon the granite when I laid its sheets? 39. The thunder, was it thou that didst call? Was the rain the tears of thy bringing forth? 40. Be thou bowed down, nor question the pains that I have set over thee, for each thing have I ordained its shadow. 41. My thoughts are from eternity, I change not by reason of thy dismay, thou shalt know me for the Lord. 42. Who setteth Capella and Achernar to be gods for a term, and a guide upon the deep to strange peoples. 43. Who maketh Altair and Rigel the captains of his host, who leaneth his spear upon Sirius ere the trumpets call. 44. Who holdeth Vega his armour-bearer, and hangeth his buckler upon Aldebaran. 45. Who hath convoked their chariots against the lamps of evil, and their swords against the abyss. 46. Who healeth the day with night, and thy heart's wound with the hands of little children. 47. Even they that seek the breast in darkness, hushing the voices that were aforetime. 48. The wind cometh, the dust is troubled for a season, but hath rest when the wind departeth. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. End of The House of Orchids and Other Poems by George Sterling.